So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Going to go a little bit out of line here. Got one thing that I want to talk about before we get into the financial reports. We've gotten a number of questions, obviously, about the Druid Hills questions on the financing and Druid Hills questions on the cost and on the $70.5 million we presented. All of those questions could have been asked at the town hall meeting. I hope everyone understands that. We didn't get those questions. So what we're going to do is at the workshop next month, we'll come in and we'll present a couple things. One, we'll show you the breakdown of Druid, how we got to that number. We will, and this is one I have to apologize for, we will present the pro forma for the Druid Hills food and beverage venue. We'll show you what that looks like. I thought we had done that before. We had done it in a executive session. We had not done it in a public meeting, so we'll correct that next month. And then we'll also go through with a little more detail about the $70.5 million. So if you're here to talk about that today, that's going to be delayed till next month, okay? Now, just so everyone understands, we're going to go ahead and take action on the cars today, because the cars that we have are going to have to be done no matter what we do over at Druid, because it's the destruction of the building, it's things of that type, and no matter what we do, we're going to have to tear down the building to get to a new building. So all the cars that we have here, we're still going to take action on tomorrow, but we'll talk about today, so you'll hear about what those are, all right? So with that in mind, I'm going to turn over to Jonathan and go through the financial report.
Good morning. As of May 31st, 2024, the sewer operations had revenues of $1,324,932, which is favorable to budget by about $18.7 thousand. Expenses were $1,033,233, which was favorable to budget by $55,000. The net surplus was $291K on a budget of $218K, favorable by 73.7, excuse me. We had operating cash in the sewer of $1.476 million and capital of $2.832 million. For the POA and the amenities, the revenue was $6.242 million, which is unfavorable to budget by $21.5 thousand. The cost of sales was $861, almost $862,000, which was unfavorable to budget by $56.9K. Expenses were about $8,055,302, which were favorable to budget by $84.1 thousand. The net subsidy was $260,419, which was favorable to budget by $5.7 thousand. The cash capital is $4.696 million. In operating is $1.402, and the reserve is $6.647005. Major components of that, and I just want to get to my screen. In the sewer, most of the sewer revenue is favorable. We adjusted a little bit for the administrative fees. Overall, the revenue in the POA and amenities, really, the shortfall was mostly due to food and beverage operations. And at this time, if anybody has any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Yeah. Jonathan, on your sewer summary,
Yes, sir.
the operating is basically the sewer service fund?
Yes, sir.
And the capital is basically the capital plus, or the capacity plus the availability funds,
Correct.
correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. I think we have a substitute for Bruce Evans today, correct?
Oh, did you want to do mine first?
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Let's go through the second part of this. I'm sorry. We got one more part of the financials to do.
Sorry, we put this in the form of a cart. I just want to reiterate that this has not been sort of a normal year in the sense of the way, because we had the reserve study come out after the budget was done. And as we mentioned before, the reserve study was broken into two components. one was a capital component, and one was a repairs and maintenance component. So I put this card together to show the current repair and maintenance projects from the reserve study, which includes $5,000 for wastewater exterior repairs and paints, $5,000 for facilities maintenance, repair, and painting. That's on admin 2. $10,000 for asphalt paving on the multipurpose building, $17,500 for asphalt at Dartmoor Marina, $68,000 for Druid Hills Pool resurfacing, $22,625 for asphalt at Dorchester, $5,000 for the alarm system at Druid Hills maintenance, $5,000 for the swimming pool mechanical systems, and $5,000 for the HVAC system for the center. Now, I will reiterate that these are projects which span Q3 and Q4 of the remainder of this year. So these projects aren't all going to happen right away, but we tend to approve them so that the team could then set it on the schedule and put it on the regular maintenance schedule. Normally, in a normal year, these would all be included in the operating budget for the club. So we're just a little bit different this year. Just wanted to point that out. Normally, these would be in the operating budget.
Yeah, and even though we are using the car form, these are not capital expenses. These are O&M expenses. We're going to get a different kind of form for that. But you'll also see them, as we talked about last time, and you'll see some today that are in the reserve study. As we bring those forward, we'll identify those that are related to the reserve study so that you know that we talked about it and here it is, so you know what the actual tracking is for all reserve study stuff.
Right.
Okay?
So there was actually $208,125 budgeted for the third and fourth quarters on reserve expenditures. There has been already a request put forward for $65,000. So this car is for the remainder of $143,125.
All right.
Hey, Jonathan, question. There's a $5,000 for wastewater exterior repairs, and we can't spend POA money on sewer. So are we going to get reimbursed?
Yes.
Is POA going to be reimbursed by sewer?
That is the
for that?
that is the idea. Yes,
Okay.
because the reserve study covered the buildings.
Right, okay. But sewer will reimburse POA
correct.
for that?
Yeah, that's an important point. So those of you that want to know about the reserve study, all facilities are in there. It's not just the O&M ones. We have sewer facilities in there as well, which is following our sewer plan. So exactly the question Bruce Cox asked and the way Jonathan answered it is the way it works. We will get reimbursed from sewer just like we reimburse sewer when we pay availability fees from the club. So those are always kept separate and you won't see them mixed. All right?
Right, yeah. It's in our governing documents that those two funds are completely separate and act independently.
Okay?
That's all I had, sorry.
All right. I'm on.
How's everybody doing? All right, I'm Keith. I'm with the Fairfield Glade Wastewater Department. I'm assistant manager. Right now, we're on St. George Drive heading towards Tawny Oak. We put in 480 feet of sewer line. We've hit rock. We've been busting out the rock. It's fairly soft, so I think we're going to be able to make it to Tawny Oak in a respectable amount of time. Sewer's doing good. Everything flows downhill, and we're taking care of it. Any questions? All right. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Keith. All right. So, Sam, community maintenance.
I would like Keith to give my report. Community maintenance report for May is as follows. Miscellaneous approvals, which is changes to new homes, disregard changes to established homes, through May of 2024 is 746. At the same time last year, it was 838. New homes approved through May of this year is 39. Last year, same time, was 44. New homes started through this year, 38, and last year was 45. And new homes completed through this year is 42, and same time last year was 49. Is there any questions on that? Thank you very much.
Okay? Moving right along. Bill?
Thank you very much. I'd like to start out by, it's my pleasure to introduce to you our new Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Keith Bucher. And Keith, if you would take a moment to please introduce yourself to the members that are present today, it'd be appreciated. If you'd like here, or you
Yeah, mine's going to go up there, so.
Here.
can go up there.
Whichever one you want.
Yes.
Good morning. My name is Keith Bucher. I started as a CFO here on Monday, so I'm on day 3. So it's my pleasure to meet everybody. Looking forward to working with the board. Looking forward to working with the residents of the community. Just a little bit about myself. I'm from Central Illinois. Grew up there, went to college there. Most of my career has been in manufacturing, but I've been a CFO level employee for about somewhere more than 15 years. Became a resident of Fairfield Glade and then accepted the role as CFO. So I'm proud to be a resident, proud to be the CFO. So looking forward to working with everybody. So thank you.
Thank you, Keith.
Another quick question. Keith, did you have to pay an exit fee to get out of Illinois?
A tax, yes.
As far as my report, I'd just like to take a moment to thank all of the staff, Mary Jo Page, Jeff Houston, Jeremy Jones, and the entire golf operations team, Sean Van Hoos, and the entire agronomy team, Dustin Maley, and the food and beverage team, and finally Bobby Jones Links for their donations of food to the Senior Open at Stonehenge. It was an outstanding success. Everyone went above and beyond to ensure that the event was well received, which was clearly evident from the many compliments, emails, and letters we received from the Tennessee PGA tournament organizers and leadership team, as well as the participants. We look forward to an even greater event for the upcoming Tennessee Women's Open in July, and hope all of y'all will come out and enjoy that great event as well. One of the things I did request upon my arrival here was to begin receiving a financial summary from Bobby Jones Links on a monthly basis. This for May of 2024, Mike Nolan and Dustin Maley have included that and as part of our board package today and presentation. You will note that the year-to-date revenues continue to lag behind budget projections, but are up $100,000 relative to the 2023 sales. Cost of sales remain an issue. Additional steps, as outlined in the report, are being taken to investigate and hopefully rectify the cost of sale issues. Payroll is also high relative to budget. Banquet and event revenue is an area of focus that Bobby Jones is taking to generate additional revenue. And we have seen some great turnouts and results of those efforts at some of the recent events at St. George Marina, as well as many that are on the horizon for the coming month. As an example, they had 39 reservations going into the event, which was the soft shell crab dinner last week. Even though the 39 reservations were below what they had hoped, they ended up serving well over 70 guests by the time the evening was over. We have posted for a new project manager position. We have currently to date received 19 resumes on that and are reviewing them, and we'll be conducting interviews shortly. I'm continuing to work on the organizational chart revisions to establish a more efficient reporting structure and growth opportunities for select staff, and the proposed conduct policy that we have discussed and have been reviewing will be presented by July, for the July work session. Does the board have any questions?
Okay.
I also want to, two more things with reference to Bobby Jones Links. I also requested Mike Nolan, the Director of Operations, will be here next July, and will present in person and answer questions at the July board workshop and board meeting. And then he will be back again in October. He will be here once a quarter going forward to give a presence and answer questions that the board or the membership may have relative to their operations. So he will be here in person. And last, I will be conducting the first of my Breakfast with Bill on July 15th. This is an informal event, just a casual time to get together over coffee and a light breakfast and talk about Fairfield Glade and anything that may be on your mind. So you'll be receiving an email on that first of next week with directions as to how to reserve a space, because it is intended to be a small informal group. It's not a big gathering, which works well and I think serves the intended purpose. So if you're not able to get in, I don't want to over-assume the demand for this, but if those that are interested, if you aren't able to get in on July, you will certainly be given priority for the September Breakfast with Bill. I'll be conducting those every other month for the foreseeable future. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Okay. Tom?
Is this on? Can you hear me? Yep. Okay. Tom Ratcliffe. Bill, thanks for your update. I'm not sure as a member I'm getting what I would like to hear. The board's getting it, but I'd like to hear a few things related to, first of all, food and beverage. No mention about the sales aspect of it, where we're going. If you look at the month of May, tremendously big difference off from budget. We've had a bad trend in year-to-date so far. Guest counts, more importantly, are down over 10%, so people are eating less there. So I'd like to hear more about that. Maybe it's in the board package. You mentioned that cost of sales continue to be an issue. For the members, let's talk about that issue for a minute. When cost of sales, and I'm speaking of Stonehenge, okay, by the way. So cost of sales for May were 71%. That's not something you would gloss over necessarily. April it was 57, March 29, I don't know how that works. February 47, January 43, and November 40, 41 rounded off. Huge numbers. And to translate that all the way down to, well, we're trending well, our losses are improving on food and beverage, that's good. But Stonehenge is our key. And if we, as the leadership here, are not able to take and maintain cost, what concerns me as a member is I'm part of this, not the whole thing, but we're giving you $16 million for Druid, and we can't make money on Stonehenge, and we've outsourced it out. So, Bill, in all due respect, I'd like some more detail for the members on what we're actually doing. If Bobby Jones has to camp out here, I'm wondering if they should, because I'm concerned about it. So that's a broad request that we get more detail, please, if we can. And if we can't, then just tell us right up front that we can't.
I would say that we're working with Bobby Jones. They gave us another new forecast of where their expenses were last month, the end of April, actuals. We needed to give it a little time to look at that, but that's one of the reasons why we're having Mike come to these meetings every other month. So we will be hearing a lot more about that, and obviously we're looking at a lot of things with them, but there's a lot to look at. It's not just going to be a simple answer. And Tom, I'm not being disrespectful here, but what you're doing is really more in member comments. You're not asking questions, so I would ask if you've got further comments, wait until the end, but if you have a question, ask that now, because we want to move through the agenda.
Thank you, okay. So specifically, you also mentioned labor. Let's look at labor in May, that was 15.7%. I'd ask why it's so low in May. That's the question. And it relates to, again, one of the things on Druid Hills that I would like the board to address, and that was staffing. We were going to elevate that, have to elevate that. That's what the members wanted to see. Well, if we're only shooting labor at that percentage, I wonder what we're actually doing. Or are these statements incorrect? And I'd ask, are they incorrect?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Cars, first up. I don't think we need to do anything with yours, Jonathan, because you've already been through it, okay?
Well, I have the other one.
Oh, yeah, okay.
capital
yeah.
one.
I know that, but I said the O&M one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So go through your capital.
Yeah, just get to that page, hold on, sorry. So, the other part of the reserve study, as we just mentioned, is the capital portion. So this car is for the third and fourth quarter reserve study capital expenditures. The total project, the budgeted amount for the third and fourth quarter was $494,500. We already had requested $320,000, so the remaining budget is $174,500. These projects include $85,000 for the restroom at number 5 at Stonehenge, $15,000 for the office trailer cement fiberboard exterior, $20,000 for fire station number 2 renovation project, and $54,500 for the built-in renovations for admin 1.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Sam.
Thank you. I'm presenting a car to the Board of Directors in the amount of $21,639. This is for a computer software system that would allow us to track work orders, prepare work orders, document work orders. It also helps us to track mechanical systems, items such as that, in order to better predict longevity, life, impending failure. We evaluated 3 different systems. The one that I'm putting forward is for $21,639. Is there any questions on that? Thank you.
Okay. Keith.
All right, I have a car for the St. George Drive Tawny Oak Loop Sewer Extension for $42,000. Pretty much it. We've got a total budget. It comes out of it, so I guess it's okay, right? All right. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Druid Hills Clubhouse design.
Before you go on, have we sent the letters out to the members?
Yes,
Okay.
those are all around.
Yep. We're on schedule.
You present the Druid? Oh, David is, okay.
The CAR I'm presenting this morning is for the next steps to continue the Druid Hills project. So it consists of 3 major items. As you know and saw, the architect only did the concept drawings. So included in this CAR is his fee to go take the concept drawings, do the design development, and then produce construction documents. So we have a complete design. So at that point, we involve all the engineering people to actually design the facility, plus all the site work. The second part of this CAR is for a modular unit to move the pro shop out of the current clubhouse, which needs to be done before we can demolish it. Also, part of this is to move the central tea times to the multi-purpose building, room C. And then the third part of the CAR is for a food truck. So the food truck will serve as the snack bar for Druid during demolition and construction, and then will be available for other activities within the Glade, like the Grove, like the pickleball tournaments, or at any other use that we see we can make some money from it. So the amount of this CAR is $780,000.
Okay. Any questions? Yep. Please come up and introduce yourself, because people at home are watching and they want to see your shining face.
Good morning. I'm Gary Douglas, and I am running for the board. But my question is this the purchase of a trailer and the purchase of a food truck as opposed to renting one from a facility that's nearby that would have those available and probably could get a much better rate than going out and buying one and then having it sitting and then have to worry about air conditioning and mold remediation and all that?
So because we have a use for both the modular unit and the food truck, after Druid is done, we are purchasing those units.
First question is, as you go out for construction drawings, how can those drawings be done if there's no menu established for in terms of for the kitchen area? Okay, question number one. And number two, you made the estimate then of the building at 16 million without these drawings. These drawings, when they are received, what's the likelihood that that number could change significantly?
All right, let's address the last one. So, based on my involvement for the last 5 years, I've developed a pretty good idea of what things cost. And so I put together the initial estimate for the project. We then got a contractor involved that has built clubhouses that is located in Knoxville. And I sent him the construction drawing, or the concept drawings, and he verified that we're in the right ballpark. Now, is it 15 million? Is it 16 million? Is it 17 million? You're right, we won't know that until we have construction drawings, but we feel confident that we're in the right order of magnitude. What was your first question, Tom?
The menu.
The menu. Okay. So in developing the concept drawings, we have been in consultation, and Bobby Jones Links has been involved. And they have assured us that no matter what menu we choose, that the kitchen is of adequate size. And so the kitchen is also sized to meet the number of tables, i.e. people, that we're set to serve. So we don't see that as an issue at all. Now, there will be some tweaking of the kitchen equipment as we get into the hard design. Is the building apt to be a little different in the final design? Yeah, probably will. Will it change significantly? No.
Okay? Any other questions? Thanks, Dave. Okay. Member comments?
Don't we have the major capital project?
Oh, I'm sorry, major capital projects. I keep skipping things. Sorry. Bruce Cox, Druid.
I appreciate you trying to get through early. Druid project, the Performance Center is progressing, still looking to finish that up in October. We have asked that some people tend to want to wander through it like they do new houses around the neighborhood. I'd ask you not to do that. It's a construction zone. We're very concerned about safety issues. So once we have it built and done, we'll have a grand opening. You get to see the finished product. The card that David presented is the next step on Druid. We have interviewed 3 construction companies to bring on board at some point here in the next few months to help us put the final plans together. All 3 of them are well-versed in building clubhouses. In fact, one of them currently building a clubhouse at Wind River, which is a golf course just outside of Lenore City. So all 3 have tremendous experience, and all 3 are local. 2 are out of Knoxville and 1's out of Alcoa, which I think is an advantage as well. Friday, we've got a steering committee meeting, and I have, since the presentation, I have received around 35 emails with various comments, and I am going to review all those comments and concerns with the steering committee on Friday, and we'll respond accordingly. I've responded to all the emails, but the committee will take all that into consideration. And quite frankly, the number one issue that I've received out of the 30-some emails, and it's probably 10 of those, is they question whether we really need a gaming room or not. And so the steering committee will have that discussion on Friday. So that's it.
Okay. Bocce courts, you're on a roll.
Yeah, bocce courts, the concrete for the courts is completed. You will soon see the construction of the cover areas which go on each end of the bocce courts. That should begin shortly. And again, we're still looking at a completion hopefully in August on that.
Do you have a question, Tom?
I had it on Druid.
What's that?
I had it on Druid.
Well, that's okay. Come on up and ask it.
Bruce, thank you very much for responding on the questions. I really appreciate it. They're very timely. Could you put them out for all the members to see what the questions were and what the answers were?
Some of the questions were simply, is there a restaurant? Okay. What I wouldn't mind doing is summarizing, Tom, what the issues were that were presented, and put that out. I'll try to find, I'm not sure how to do that yet, but we'll figure out a way to do that.
There's a section there for frequently asked questions.
Yeah, and so
on the site.
I will come up with a summary of what the issues that were brought up.
Great, thank you. I think I misunderstood, so maybe you could correct me. I thought at the workshop meeting, you asked us to get back to you with questions?
You mean at the presentation?
At the presentation.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. I've
Yeah.
gotten 30 some of those.
And the reason I say questions is because you suggested questions, but I can tell you, I heard from people that have had comments, not questions.
And they commented.
And-
I got comments as well.
Okay.
Y'all don't hold back.
Well, I think maybe they might have. And my only other question to the group, it appeared this time that there was very little, other than what's on the website, that went out to the public. And by that, I mean, and I'm asking that the board, like you always do, you use the media, you send them information such as signage and so forth to publish a summary of what's happening at Druid, so people know what the plan is, what the costs are, that type of thing. Can that happen?
Okay, good. Tom, somebody actually wrote me a comment about that, and my comment back to that individual was, first we made a public presentation on the concept, and it was live streamed, it was recorded, and it was placed on the website. So every member has access to all the information that I personally have on the Druid project. Now, Greg mentioned, next month, we'll bring some more detail what's behind the $16 million estimate we have, and I've got that, and we'll present that. And we'll put that on the website as well. So I would say to the members that your source of information is the member website.
Thank you. I guess, Bruce, that's my point is I found it strange that nowhere in the deck was the cost put in there. It had to be asked about. And I appreciate, Greg, what you're doing next month. But I also, you made it a point in the golf center to put the pro forma in the presentation. Yet that wasn't in the presentation either. And you had an audience, a big audience. So I'm wondering why.
And Tom, again, remember what the presentation was. It was a concept presentation, as Dave indicated. As we continue to get feedback, as we continue to bring in or start the construction drawings, it will be refined. And so there'll be another town meeting here in the next few months to update everybody on where we are on the project and what's gone in. For instance, to your menu comment, you won't develop a menu until, once we develop the menu, we'll decide what equipment to put in the kitchen. We've got kitchen space. All those things have to be decided. So I don't have all your answers. I don't have them because we don't have all the answers figured out yet. This is a project. It goes step by step. The first step is the concept. And the idea there, Tom, was to present to the public what we heard you said you wanted in the restaurant. And that's what we did. Now, with the feedback, except for that one area, we're gonna proceed in getting better design construction drawings. Once we do that, we'll make a presentation. And we'll have a better cost concept because we'll have a contractor on site that'll help us figure that out. So we'll keep you up to date as we go, but I can't give you all the answers because I don't have all the answers right now. Okay?
All right? Again.
Okay, on the emergency services complex, AEI, who is our architectural firm out of Cookville, continues to work on the architectural design and the engineering work for the emergency services complex. The site survey, including the topographical survey report, has been shared with AEI, and we are proceeding with soil samples in the area of the proposed emergency services complex building to determine the feasibility of construction on the proposed site. Now, you'll also notice, if any of you drive down Maintenance Boulevard, that the county now is in the process of removing part of the crushed stone mountain that we used to have in that area. They have completed the chip and sealing exercises that they're going through for this particular fiscal year. July 1st starts their next fiscal year, and so that we expect the rest of the crushed stone will disappear once they begin their chip and seal for the 2024-2025 fiscal year for the county. The latest draft of the proposed architectural drawing and the preferred building orientation option have been reviewed by the board and was shared with the Emergency Services Planning Committee on Monday. And they have conducted a review of that. We will get some additional feedback from the committee, and then we'll pass that feedback on to the architect. But we fully expect that within the next month to month and a half, we should have the final design for the building locked down with the orientation of the building, and we'll then be able to make all of those documents public, and we'll brief the membership of the fire department on that as well. So that's the update for July, for June.
Okay. All right, member comments?
Sue Taylor, I have a question on the financials. I was a little slow getting up for the thing, so I had to wait. I printed out the food and beverage.
Please state your name so.
Oh, I did. Sue
Oh,
Taylor?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
That's
hear.
okay.
I apologize.
I printed out the food and beverage spreadsheet, and I'm showing at the bottom, year-to-date, actual loss of $201,000. I printed out May of last year, the same line, a loss of $53,263. That is a loss of $148,093 more than last year. So I guess I'm curious, what good is Bobby Jones doing for us that we've lost $150,000 more than last year?
Well, I can tell you they have an aggressive budget for this year, which I think they realize, their budget projections. They are having, as we alluded to earlier, cost of sales issues. They are doing, did a thorough investigation with cameras and the like relative to theft issue for cost of sales. I can't speak to that. Those are their employees. I do know some employees are no longer with them. But again, those are their employees. They're not my employees, so I don't get involved in their legally in that arena, and appropriately so. You know, they have some time left, not a lot, so hopefully they'll get some of their ship corrected.
Well, cost of sales for Stonehenge this year was $362,708. Cost of sales for Stonehenge last year was $308,000. So this year is only $54,000 more. I don't understand these numbers. And I was an accountant for a billion-dollar company.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not getting these numbers.
Well, let me add a couple things, okay? This is one of the reasons why we're continuing to meet with Bobby Jones. We see the same numbers you do, but we have to rely on them to work with them as a partner with us to figure out what is wrong. Now, there's an investigation going on with part of that where we may not have posted all the revenue, which could have a considerable change in the financials. We're still looking into that. We got to find out whether that's true, false, or a factoid, okay?
Why wouldn't the May figures be posted?
Because we're still investigating the issue of whether or not we've posted all of the revenue for the months January through May, okay? So we've got to get into that. We've got to find out whether or not it's true or not. That could have a material effect on the financials if it turns out to be true. So we're not.
So these are a waste of time then?
Pardon me?
Then these are a waste of time. If they're not.
They're not a waste of
If they're
time.
not accurate
They're
numbers.
not a waste of
That was
time.
addressed.
We're doing the investigations into the things to find out what is wrong and how it can be corrected. But we also have to work with our partner in that. We just cannot make decisions on our own, okay? So we have to work together. We have to find out what's true and what's false. Bobby Jones has some ideas of where they're looking to see whether or not things are correct. And we're going through that methodically to make sure that we know whether or not it's true or false. If it's true, then we're going to have to come back and talk to everybody about that. If it's false, then the financials will probably stay where they are. But the question is what's causing the issue and how can we correct it? It's not just looking at numbers. That's the easy part. You know, I can read just like you can about the differences, but it's more important for us to get into, well, what are we going to do about it? Okay? And that takes work, and it takes both organizations working
I guess
together.
my concern is we're losing more money than we did before we had Bobby Jones. And
Well,
everybody was screaming
Now, hold on
about
now.
that.
I suggest that you go back and take a look at the 2022 financials.
Well, I could go back to 2019.
No. There was a sizable subsidy that this community was paying to because of Stonehenge and food and beverage, that has never been close to where Bobby Jones is.
That doesn't make it right.
I didn't say it's right. I just said that, but your statement was that Bobby Jones is doing a worse job than we were doing. That is not a true statement. No. Take a look at 2022.
I'm comparing last year
Remember-
to this year.
remember
I mean,
this.
I can go back to when I lived in Illinois. I could compare my taxes in Illinois compared to here.
Bobby-
I mean, it's not same.
Bobby Jones only came on board in March of
February.
2023.
February 23rd.
Well, they actually took over operations in March. So they came on board, the contract was signed in February, they took over operations in March. So I would ask you to take a look at the 22 financials for the year end. Okay, I'm not saying that we're where we want to be with Bobby Jones or where we want to be with food and beverage, but your statement about Bobby Jones doing worse than us is not a true statement.
Comparing last year to this year. It is.
Compare, you can look for the last 5 years,
Well, I
and you're
know
going
you
to see
keep saying
subsidies
that.
a lot
All I'm
higher.
saying is, what my comment is comparing last year to this
I-
year.
I
You're
get
saying the
that.
previous years to, fine, that's fine. I'm just saying last year to this year.
And that's a true statement, but what I'm telling you
Thank you.
is that,
I know
is
it
that there's
is.
3 months of that, 2.5 months of that was not Bobby Jones. It was us running it.
Okay, well, if you want to take 50,000 a month out, it would still be more.
We're looking into it. We get
Okay.
your comment, we really do.
Okay, well,
And-
one reason Stonehenge, the prices are outrageous. And I know a lot of people don't go there. I couldn't tell you the last time I've been there because the prices are outrageous.
Compared to what?
Just the ambiance, the food value, the quality of the food.
Compared to what?
I can go to Fire and Vine in Cookville and have a much better meal for less money than Stonehenge.
Are you taking into account your member discount?
Yes,
Okay.
so, okay,
Yes.
the
Thank
numbers
you.
don't add up.
Any other member comments?
It's hard to get up, so I'm sick. I can't.
Go on.
You're welcome. I don't like the big
Morning, y'all. I'm Gary Nyquist and live in the Druid Hills area. I don't understand the recently adopted lot inventory plan. As you know, this plan reduces the minimum area of the residential dwelling size from 1,200 square feet to 800 square feet for new home construction for a large number of lots for sale in the Glade. But why do we have this requirement at all? There was a time when the minimum was 1,500 square feet. Then it went down to 1,200 square feet. When it was 1,500 or 1,200, there was still teeth in it for protecting homeowner property values. Now that it's 800 square feet, what's the point of having it? I guess the point is, from what we've been reading in the newspapers, is to sell lots. Because you can build small spec homes at lower cost and sell it at a lower price. Sounds like a real estate development ploy to me. So the question now becomes, how do we know we will sell more lots? And if so, then how many more? Has Mary Jo Page or our marketing people been telling us that visitors to the Glade and people in California, Illinois, Florida, New York, and across the whole country, are they telling us that our lots and our houses are too expensive? And if we build smaller spec home houses, will they come? I haven't heard any of that. Then why are we permitting smaller spec home house construction down to 800 square foot? And who or what benefits from spec home construction? I personally fail to see how spec homes benefit existing homeowner property values. At some point, they will drive down our property values. If spec home construction is meant to sell lots, then what information tells us that these lots will be bought? And from the standpoint of property values, especially property values, how many of these lots will have 800 square foot spec homes built on them? My case in point, Druid Hills Block 1 has 159 lots for sale. They are all eligible for 800 square foot spec homes. That's 60% of all the lots in Block 1. If all 159 lots have spec homes, the property value loss, in my opinion, would be catastrophic. It appears to me that Glade governance is enabling small spec home construction to the detriment of present homeowner property values. Spec homes will reduce property values. Just ask any realtor. For the last 2.5 months, we've been asking the same question. Who or what will advocate for present homeowners to protect our property values and our property rights? We've never gotten an answer. Instead, all we've gotten is rhetoric and distortion of what we did say, plus some soft soaping by certain members of the press that made us look like the bad guys. Do you have any answers for us now?
I think we can answer some of those questions. Sam, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but do you want to talk a little bit about the lot layouts and the platting? Sure. And that type of thing?
Sure. I've been at Fairfield Glade for 15 years. In the 15 years that I've been here, the minimum requirement for a home to be built has not changed. It has not changed. There are areas of Fairfield Glade that have a minimum requirement for a home, heated space of 800 feet. I went through this last time. Mr. Nyquist, your house has a minimum square foot of 800 square feet. Your lot. You chose to build a 1,200 square foot house. I'm not attacking you, I'm just stating facts. So at the request, if the minimum spec is 800, as I said before, and everybody comes in and builds 1,500 square foot homes, they have not changed the minimum requirement. It is still 800. If the minimum square footage required for a lot is 1,500, and everybody comes in and builds 2,000, 2,200, when somebody comes in, they have not changed the minimum square footage. When somebody comes in and builds a 1,500 square foot home, that is within the requirements. The others that have chosen to build 2,000, 2,500 square foot homes may see that as a threat to their homes. But they have the same rules and requirements that everybody else has in that development. I ran some numbers at the request. Since 2013, 65 homes with an 800 square foot minimum have been built. 65 homes with an 800 square foot minimum have been built. In other words, 65 lots have had 800 square foot minimum. The average of that home built on that lot is 1,662 square feet. The minimum is 800, the average is 1,662. The smallest home built is 900 feet. That is the one that is raising all the concerns. The largest home built on a lot with a minimum square footage of 800 since 2013 is 2,196 feet. Minimum square footage required, 800. Actual home built, 2,196 square feet. So somebody came and said, well, run the numbers for 1,000 or less, because I don't like lots that are 1,000 or less. So I did that. Again, I'm not attacking anybody, I'm just saying what I did. Since 2013, we've had 281 lots that required 1,000 square foot minimum, 281. The average home built on those 1,000 square foot minimum is 1,866 square feet, 1,866. Minimum required, 1,000. The smallest home built was 1,190. So I'm going to repeat myself. 281 lots with 1,000 square foot minimum, the average 1,866, the minimum 1,190. The largest home built since 2013 on a 1,000 square foot required lot is 4,608 feet. So somebody has built a 4,608 foot home on a lot that the minimum requirement is 1,000 square feet. Now, if the person next door builds a 1,000 square foot home, neither one of those homeowners are in the wrong. The minimum square footage for these lots has not changed, but the homeowners have chosen to build larger homes in an area where the minimum square footage required is 800 or 1,000. There's 346 total homes built since 2013. The average of those 346 homes built since 2013 is 1,828 square feet. Now let's discuss spec homes. A spec home is a home that a builder starts to build where he owns it. It is not sold. It is not custom. My office can tell when a home sells during the construction process. The reason we could do that is all of a sudden a bunch of change orders come in. Change orders requiring differences in paint, differences in colors, differences in stone, changes to the house. Very few of those 346 homes were started as spec homes, and even less have completed the build as spec homes. So very few, and I apologize, I do not have that number because I wasn't aware that this was going to come up. But I can probably run the number. Pretty sure I could run the number. On the number of spec homes that were started and the number of spec homes that were completed. And the number is I'm predicting, relatively small. So all a spec home means is I have some money, I have some property, I have my framers, my roofers, my contractors standing by. This happens more often in the winter. The reason it happens in the winter is because the builder wants to keep his contractors employed over the winter. So they submit a spec home. They submit a spec home. That's why I'm not concerned about the numbers where I reported number of homes. I have a computer program that tells me what I'm looking at for the month. We're averaging 120 homes per year, new homes. So in December, all of a sudden, there's a surge by the builders for various reasons. They're afraid prices are going to go up. They're trying to get concrete in the ground. They're trying to keep those homeowners employed. Usually within 3 months, March, I start getting a lot of change orders on those homes. I start getting a lot of change orders on those homes because people have come in, they've looked at the house, they've bought the house. Had that house been put in the ground 3 months later, it would not be a spec home. They will have bought it. Is there any questions on that? Sometimes I
Sam?
come across as,
Sam, could you kind of go over how those minimums got set?
the minimums were set by Fairfield Glade Community Club, the developer, and to some degree, the county, based on the size of the lot. And again, those specs have not, we haven't gone in and said, goodness gracious, we have a minimum square footage requirement for this block of 1,200 feet, but we're gonna lower it to 800. That has never been done in my tenure. And I guarantee, or I feel pretty confident saying that that's probably never been done. They have never reduced, I have been asked to place a maximum square footage on a lot. Every house in the neighborhood's 1,200, now somebody has this lot, they really like it, they want to build a 4,500, 5,000 square foot home. The neighbors come to me and say, you need to stop that home from being built. You need to have maximum. Without getting too deep into it, that's going to be virtually impossible, 14,000 lots that we have to set maximums. So,
The point I was going to make is that you can go to the county. These plats were put in years and years and years ago. They weren't set in the last 2 or 3 years. The original ones are with the county. If we wanted to do a change, we'd have to replat the whole area. That's not a cheap thing. And we don't see the issue, as Sam, I think, went through very, very well with your detail there. For not being prepared, you were very prepared. But the fact is that we don't see the issue that you're talking about because it hasn't happened. And the point is that we want, as a community, to go through and replat every lot that hasn't been built on here at Fairfield Glade. That would not be a slow news item, and it would not be cheap.
Isn't that one of my points is we want to make sure that we don't get into a problem with this? And the other thing that Sam, I appreciate all the information and everything. Did I miss something, or isn't that what I asked when I first talking about this thing is why do we have the requirement, the minimum required at all anymore? It doesn't mean anything.
I beg your pardon, it doesn't mean anything. What do
It
you
doesn't
mean?
the minimum size requirement doesn't mean anything anymore.
The only way that the minimum size requirement would mean something is if we said, you can only build an 800 square foot house on this lot. No bigger, no smaller. And at that point, your house would be 800 square feet. Now, people ebb and flow. Credit prices go up, the cost of the house goes up, the cuts are made. Cuts are made, just like they're probably going to be made with construction for Druid or the Emergency Services Center. When bids come in, I look at a house and I say, boy, I'd really like to have granite countertops. I'd really like to have a tiled shower. I'd really like to have a lot of stuff. The builder comes back and says, hey, that's going to be $550,000. My budget is $300,000. What do I need to do? I need to get rid of that stuff, and I need to make choices or reduce the home size. Or I need to reduce from a 5-car garage to a 2-car garage, perhaps, something of that nature. So if you look back historically, as interest rates rise, the size of the house probably drops a little bit. What people can afford drop. As the economy gets worse, or the economy gets better, the size of the house A lot of people here are, I'd like to say I'm the youngest guy here, but I'm probably not. Do you remember McMansions? The term McMansions, right? People called it, they built and built and built, larger, larger, larger. I need more, more, more. But that hasn't changed the minimum requirements. And I really don't see a trend to say, I'm gonna build an 800 square foot house. I may try it. It may sell. I may find a niche. I have a builder that routinely builds 2 to 2,100 square foot homes. In 2010, when the housing bubble crashed, I know because I bought my house at that time, the builder said, I need to build a smaller house. He averaged 1,600 square feet for 3, 4, 5 years. Now he's back up to 2,100 square feet. So it ebbs and it flows. Now the trend may be smaller houses, downsizing. You know, we have these minimums. They have never changed. You may see a smaller house go in sometimes. You may see a much larger house go in sometimes. And we are very clear with the builders and the homeowners on what the minimum spec is. But very rarely does somebody come in my office, very rarely. As a matter of fact, I can think of never where they came in and said, where can I put an 800 square foot house? Because when you look around, this room is probably 3 times as an 800 square foot house. Does that answer your question?
No. I only have 2 more things to say, and then I appreciate all your information. I guess I have a problem with, I moved here in 2009, and when I read the amendments or to the CNRs and all that jazz that's out there about thou shalt not and thou shalt, there was an amendment or something done in 2003, because to change that square footage to 800, because when I got here, in my opinion, and what I know about, it was 1,200 square feet at that point, so.
You're talking about your area.
Yeah, my house.
I will have to research that.
You were talking about my house.
In 2003, I was in Iraq. But
No,
I can go back-
23, 2000, just last year.
Oh, no, sir.
No.
It has not changed.
Well, it's in the documentation, I'll bring it.
Yeah, I think there's a misunderstanding somewhere. but
Well, it
I
got
have
changed.
not- I beg your pardon?
It got changed.
Yes, sir, that's.
The only other thing I have to say.
I have a document from 15 years ago that shows 800 square feet.
Okay. The only thing want to add is I'm not in favor of kicking the can down the road until we do have a problem, okay? Thanks.
We do not have a problem, sir.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments?
Tom Ratcliffe. Couple of things. First, and I'm belaboring it, I know, but can the board publish for the community a timeline and next steps on Druid? And specifically for me, what I'm looking for is, when is this building done? No discussions. And you can tell me it's done today. No discussions, that's the concept drawing, and the cost is subject to drawings, is done. That's fine. Or is there a time period for members to be able to come forward and make their points on the building or the cost or whatever that would cause the board to maybe look at the project differently? Does that make sense?
No, but I'll try to. Tom, we did the concept. I've gotten lots of input, like I said. We're gonna we're gonna look at that at the steering committee on Friday. We're gonna get a contractor, or the architect to continue construction drawings. We will have meetings when we have more construction drawings. But we're gonna move ahead, and next month, I will gladly bring the tentative schedule for Druid to completion. Understanding, it's promised me this, by the way, understanding that that can change as we go due to a lot of circumstances, weather, material deliveries, whatever. So I will gladly bring a tentative schedule next month and show that and put it out on the website so that people know. But will we find it? I'll tell you now, it'll change, okay?
Yeah.
But we are forging ahead because the feedback, the majority of the feedback I got, not all emails, but verbally as well at the meeting and after, is that everybody liked the concept. And the only one issue that we need to look at is that gaming area versus a private dining area, which was brought forward, and we're going to take a look at that, okay?
That I appreciate, and believe me, I understand where you're coming from. I'm dwelling on this because there's this feeling, and in fact, the board said it last month, about people not coming to this meeting. And it is my view that there's apathy. And the apathy is the board's already decided. I went to the town hall meeting looking for the concept, looking for how it matched up with what we were looking for. I didn't look to have some in-depth discussion about the total cost. I thought that was coming down the road. And the impression now I get is it's a done deal. This is the way we're going. It's a done deal. Size and everything else. And that's all I'm trying to figure out.
And I'll tell you, are we going to tear the building down that's there now?
Yeah.
Yes, we are. Are we going to build a new building? Yes, we are. Is it going to look like the one you saw at the town hall? Yes, it is.
Okay. Dick?
So Tom, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You said we. Who are you speaking for?
Well, okay. I will say we in terms of people that I have talked to or people have come to me more so. Okay?
So what-
Just
what I would ask-
acquaintance,
what I-
friends,
What I would
blah,
ask
blah,
that,
blah.
because we get that same feedback. We get a lot of we's. We're all
Sure.
part of the community as well.
Mhm.
And I think what Bruce is saying and what I'm hearing, the we's that we've been around have been very positive.
It's good.
So if there's we's that are supporting the types of views that you're bringing forward, I suggest I come and share.
And I've been telling them, come in,
Yeah,
share.
absolutely.
Been telling them to take and go
And
back to
Tom,
Bruce.
I'll
So
tell
I
you,
get
Phil,
it. Get it.
before I was in charge of this project, Greg was in charge of this project, did several town halls. Every month since then, you'll hear it again tomorrow, there is an email address that you can send any comments or questions to. I went back when I got in charge of this project, and I went back and read all the ones that Greg had seen and addressed. The last one was April of last year, until we made this presentation,
Right.
and now I've gotten a bunch. People, if they have questions or concerns, the people you're talking to, they need to send me an email, and I will address their questions and comments. To Scott's point, though, the 250 people that attended that, when they left that room, I felt a very positive vibe as people left that room. And a lot of the comments I got in the email are positive. If you ask me, I got to tell you, my opinion is, from the feedback I've gotten, is that in total, this community is in favor of where we're headed with that clubhouse.
I don't disagree with you, Bruce. I think the outlying thing out there is the $16 million for the cost is out there. Because of the significance in terms of the debt service and so forth that it represents, the fact that there's the view, I'll speak for me, the view that we have not proven that we can run or have somebody else run profitably a restaurant, and now we're going to spend a lot of money on it. And are we going to be able to operate it profitably? Are we going to go back to, and that was one of the overarching things that Greg said early on. What's the community going to support? Well, by support, I'm looking at it and saying, what are they going to be able to swallow cost-wise? And then if it comes back and it's not being operated effectively or being used by the members, in line with maybe the projections.
Tom, have you done any research on food and beverage in the club industry? And how much other clubs are subsidizing their food and beverage?
Not specifically, but I've
I
looked.
suggest you go do that. Food and beverage is a very difficult
It
for
is.
clubs to run at a profit. And this group, even before I got here, has done an outstanding job of reducing some of the subsidy this community has to pay over the last 3 to 5 years. And can we guarantee you that we're going to continue that emphasis? Absolutely. Can we guarantee you that we're gonna get to a profit? Well, we're not for profit. You know, you hear the question about the pricing already. Are we going to look at Bobby Jones Links or other providers in the future or self-manage? Absolutely. We're gonna take a look at all those numbers as we look at future ways to reduce the subsidy this community has to pay for food and beverage. We're part of this community as well. We don't like to have to subsidize it. But to make comments as if we aren't watching that, I find that offensive. We are, we do care, and we want to reduce that subsidy. But I think you should take some time at how difficult it is in organizations like this to be profitable in food and beverage throughout the industry.
Point well taken, and so I appreciate it. Part of it, Scott, is also being transparent. You do a lot of this stuff behind the scenes, and you have these questions out there. Very interesting comment today.
Tell me your definition of transparency.
Transparency, in my definition, is being open and honest with the members. And
Hold on right there, you said honest. Do you think we're not being honest?
I think that's, in some cases, I think that there are deliberately.
I think you need to bring facts forward.
Okay.
If you're gonna make accusations
Okay.
about this board's
Fair,
honesty.
fair.
And I just want to also add a point of clarification on that. The debt service is not for Druid Hills in particular.
Yeah.
There is $50 million worth of capital projects, of which Druid is only 16 million of them.
Right.
So to put the debt service on Druid itself is not appropriate as well.
Okay. I'll save that in maybe for a later date. The next one that was on my list was the fee structure that you increased, and what I was specifically going for there, Scott, was there was the meeting that was held for the reserve study, the indication that where the fees were going, and then a vote at the next board meeting. No kind of discussion about the logic in terms of how they were being set in some of the increases. Just, here's what we're doing, vote, and it's a done deal. I would like to see, again, a little bit more of what alternatives do we look at, what ideas the members might have towards some of those structures.
Okay, I'm going to address that one, because we talked about this with the realtors in depth. We also, at the town meeting that we had, that Bruce did, we put down the sources of income that we had. We looked at all of those. The fact of the matter is, and I'll get into just a couple comments around the realtors. I'm not going to take you through that because that was almost a 2-hour meeting.
I'm sure.
And we stood there and we asked got the questions and we gave the answers. And I will tell you this, there was a lot of conversation around, gee, you went up too high. Well, the question is that not really are you too high or too low, is what do you want to do with the money? That's really the question. If we're going to do the things that we outlined in terms of the capital expenditures we have, that's the amount of money we're going to need. Now, we got several ways of getting that, and that's why we looked at all the income sources. And the realtors were saying, well, you should have put it on a value of the home. You shouldn't have done a flat fee. Well, in many jurisdictions, that's found to be discriminatory because everything with an amenity is a common area. It doesn't tie to your home value. It doesn't, I don't get a reduction or an increase in my golf fee because of the size of my home. I pay a fee. That's what's called a common area or an amenity fee. So there's discriminatory things that are going, that can be brought up if you start tying it to a criteria that's not in line with where a common area is. So that was one thing. The second thing is, well, why didn't you come and talk to us? And we felt that it was more important to talk to the membership first and not the realtors. That's just the way we do business. Number three, whether or not that, we finally got down to, and you're going to see a lot more of this next month, but really where it gets down to, folks, is we could increase some of these fees or we could do a special assessment. Now you tell me, sitting out there, which one would you rather have? If you want a special assessment, we can do that. But the tone we got from members was that they didn't want to go there. So you have to look at what you're given, and there's also some state law, quite honestly, that would make it almost impossible for us to do an assessment anyway. We would need 2/3 of the property owners to vote on that proposition. So if we had half of the people vote and 55% said, let's do the special assessment, we couldn't do it. So there's a lot of things, components that go into this, Tom, and it's not just taking a look and saying, well, let's figure out how we could move around the money so that we can do what we want. If that's the accusation, I'm right where Scott is. If you think we're being dishonest, you better bring that to the table, and you better show us where we're doing that. Because I can honestly tell you, from being on this group for 4 years, and I'm not going to speak for you, or Bruce, I'm not going to speak for you, but you've been here longer. I believe that this group, whenever we sit down to talk about these issues, we talk about the issues. And we really try to go through and think about not what's best for Greg Jones, or Bruce Cox, or Ken Fleur, or anybody else. We think about what's best for this community. And I will tell you, I got a real short fuse when people start accusing me of being dishonest or distrustful or lying or things like that, and I've heard all of those accusations. So if you got that and you want to say that, you better bring the proof into this meeting and we'll have it out with the whole community. Because I can honestly tell you that doesn't happen. Okay?
Yeah, Greg, the one thing that I would just tell you in that 3-minute dissertation that you just made was more information that the members heard than what was given when you guys put the motion and voted on it. And that's the type of, wait.
Go ahead, Bruce.
Wrong.
Okay.
Completely wrong. It was stated, it was published, it was discussed. That's wrong, full stop. And we answered that, and I will tell you that every one of those decisions that we looked at affects me as a resident, it affects you, it affects everybody that's here. And we don't do this to see whose ox gets gored. We do this because everybody is in this. We've all got skin in this thing. And by golly, we told you, if you cared to listen by streaming, if you cared to look at the presentation, if you cared to ask a question, we put together a complete FAQ that is now out there on the website. We're redesigning the website so it's easier to find this stuff as well. Done.
Well, the other thing I would add, especially those of you that have questions about the amenity fee, it is posted. There's, I think, 40-some questions on it and how it works for both current residents and new residents coming in. I suggest you go out and read it.
Can I add something to that, Greg? As part of, we had the outside group, and I know we haven't given you the strategic plan yet, and we're going to do that soon. But that was also a recommendation from our outside consultant, that we raised that amenity fee. And when they looked at it comparatively against what other communities like ours are charging in terms of amenity reserve fee. So it wasn't a unilateral type thing that this board. We do our research. We do consider our options.
And Tom, I'm going to add on, and I don't want to make this personal, but you made a comment several times in the last couple of years, and your comment was, I don't always understand why I have to pay for all the new people coming in.
Absolutely.
Well, this amenity fee gets at that. It really spreads out the cost of not only the people that have made all the investments in capital over past years, but helps the new people coming in share in that. And that was one of the conversations we did have about why we did it.
And Greg, as I've told you, I support that 100% and how you did it, that you are applying a fee. The question I had was, why not structure it high and low, meaning a little bit lower on the low volume or the low priced homes, a little bit higher on the other ones. You made the point just now, not at the town hall, that didn't come out, but now about discriminatory practices and so forth that could exist. Okay, logical, makes sense. So
Well, let's be clear about the town halls, okay? Because I really would like to speak to that. And Bruce, you said it, and I think Scott, you kind of articulated, and Bruce, you certainly said it. We hold the town halls for people to ask questions. That's why we do them. So if you're holding back on a question, now, and again, I'm not trying to be personal here, did anyone tell you, Tom, you couldn't ask a question?
No.
No. That's why we have them. So if you got questions, and that's why I think you'll remember that almost the next day or the next week after that town hall, I expressed a disappointment that we only had 88 people there.
You did.
These are important things to this community. So come, ask your questions. We're not going to try to dance around those things. We'll answer them as best we can. If we don't know the answer, we'll get back to you. And if we have to make another presentation at a later time, like next month for this one, we'll do it. But we can't anticipate every question that's going to come up at a town hall, but you should feel free as a member to ask your questions, just like in this meeting. So if you're not going to do that, then we're not going to get any better at it, okay? And I really strongly urge you to come, ask your questions. If they're in town halls about specific things, ask the questions. Now, I wouldn't expect you to ask a bunch of sewer questions in a town hall about Druid, but that's fair. So if it's a topic, ask your questions. And I mean that to everybody that's listening, watching, or whatever you're doing, or that you'll hear an email about or whatever, but ask your questions.
And Greg, just for the board to just think about it at the same time, I 100%, we should ask questions. Not everybody goes to that meeting and can off the top of their head think about the questions till after they left. And that's why in a lot of cases, you open it up to the questions, which I think is great. But it seems like on some, we don't then quantify those questions and answers for people to go and look at. I've been wondering, here's the frequently asked questions. We didn't do it on Druid Hills. You said you were going to summarize it, okay. We don't do it at the budget time on the questions that come out. And I think
I'm going to correct you, because when I was treasurer, I published every question and answer that I got on the budget, Tom. So don't stand there and tell me that doesn't happen, okay?
And let me add on to it. On across the board, in every thing that goes out there, there's the treasurer's email address. So it doesn't matter who the treasurer is at a given time. In the transition that we're going through, any question that goes to treasurer, we all get. It goes to our email addresses. It's not just an individual, so it goes to the board. And if you've got those questions, and I've told you that personally, get them in writing. It's a lot easier to address something in writing that you want to know from any of these presentations, because we got time to go get it for you. Sure. And I appreciate it. It's doing this off the top of my head. I got an old head, and it doesn't always work as good as I wanted. But I can go and find that information for anybody.
For the record, I've noticed since I've been here, those questions usually get answered within 24 hours, if not sooner. Because I'm on that email chain too. So to say the questions aren't being answered, they're being answered in a very timely manner.
I would also add to Greg's comments about the opportunities this community has to present questions. Leverage those. But what I also ask is those people that have the favorable comments, you also express your opinion. Right? Oftentimes in board meetings and town halls, we get the negative viewpoint. I'd also like to hear the positive viewpoints and the thoughts from the people that do appreciate what we're doing. Those help us a tremendous amount when we hear both sides of the equation.
Okay.
Appreciate all the comments. Just, Greg, can I give you this for your workshop, just to look at, and
Sure.
maybe you'll consider?
I don't know what this is, but yeah, I'll be happy to.
This is on political signage.
It's
that
what?
I've
I'm
asked-
sorry?
On political signage.
We're going to talk about that.
So you don't need this.
But yeah, give it to me. Okay.
My name is Mike Epler. I'm a member in good standing of the last 3.5 years as a resident member. I'd like to respond to both of my fellow members and their questions, the first from the food and beverage and the second from the Tom's insights. And to your point, Scott, I'm a bright sider, not a dark sider in the Glade. I see something and I want to participate in it, and I belong to this community and this fabric. On the Druid Hills project, it must be noted that this board gave a mandate to steering committee and to the subcommittees to get community input. We spent 2.5 years listening to every single comment that folks gave to us within that. That concept that was presented at the town hall was merely the culmination of 2.5 years of the board asking the community, what would you like and what do you hold most dear in your amenity? The result of that was that concept, and I can speak to it because I was standing right there. We took all the comments and the input of the last 2.5 years, and we specifically went down and said, does this concept match those statements? And I can say, as a fellow member and as a person involved in this, that concept is a graphic description of what the community has asked for, of all the input, and it was a lot of input. Only one time did I hear somebody say, don't tear it down and build something new. Only one time, and it was one person, and that was 1.5 years, 2 years ago. So speaking to that, I think the bigger point is, Scott, in responding to that last point that you made, is if the, well, let me step back a half step. So the financials and the way that they're given to the community is an opportunity for folks to look at our stewardship. And to that point, Bill, you and your team, you know, the S&Ts and all of our staff, you do a very good job, a great job. Thank you. Thank you for the awesome work that our community is offered. In the financials, it might be helpful if we find a way to simplify the way that they look, in the way that they're presented, or consistency across the board. But I would ask as a member, and I'm asking simply as a member, is that in that simplicity, that it provides an opportunity to be able to, as my other fellow member that was asking about food and beverage, financials are meant to catch things. And thank you, Bill, and thank you, Greg, for looking at the food and beverage operation and trying to say, why do we have a problem here? And how are we approaching that? That's the value of financials in the way that we look at it. So anyways, I just wanted to take a second to respond to that, to say thank you, board, and thank you, SMTs, for the great work that you're doing. And let's find a way that we can keep listening to our fellow members so that we can respond at a level, you know, with that. Something that may help, and it's just a suggestion as a member, you know, just speaking as a member, is perhaps some education on our financial approaches could be a useful tool with that. because we have sewer, we have capital projects, we have operations and maintenance, and each of those are different ways of looking at our financial package. Even though it's one big thing, our POA is split among those various pieces, with that. And perhaps an educational component could be useful for us so that we can help communicate and give our input on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Well,
Appreciate
just
it.
on a clarification, we did start that educational process. I mean, we did a presentation. The first one was sewer. The next was the reserve. So we have been, and we do post those on the website for those of you who weren't able to attend that particular meeting. So.
Consistent education is a helpful thing too, though. I mean,
I agree,
yeah.
Mike. And I agree wholeheartedly with the simplification.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can do more, yeah.
Thank you.
I agree.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
I just have a quick question. My name is Keith Robinson, 118 Morris Lane, and I always point out that I'm here representing the Glade Sun. I'm a freelancer, freelance writer for the Glade Sun. I was going to go up to one of you at the end of the meeting and ask this question, but it occurred to me I really don't know who to ask it to. It's about Stonehenge Grill and the finances. Should I ask the board treasurer, the finance director, the general manager, or the board president? I don't know, so I'm just broadcasting this to all of you.
Let's start with you coming up, and Bill and I will be here. You ask a question, we may have to defer it to another conversation, but at least we can start with you asking the question.
Yeah, that's right, okay.
Okay?
But the question is, from what I read in the budget report, the numbers of diners is decreasing, right? It has been falling. Does the board have any feel for why that is happening? Is it maybe that the number of visiting golfers, they're not dining there as to what you might have expected, or is it the members themselves who aren't going there as often, or is it a combination of both? I just wonder if you have any feel for that, or is that something that you have to look at?
Again, I can consult with Mike Nolan of Bobby Jones Links as far as their, respectfully, of their opinion. I can tell you that they are off about right at 4,500 covers, if we're talking Stonehenge alone, over last year. Okay, that's over a 5-month period. So, your revenue stream is actually within about 60,000. That's about a $60,000 variance over last year. Rounds are down in April and May. So that does impact that number, yes. As far, but clearly there is a variance from last year to this year at Stonehenge. The snack bar operations are doing better. There's still some variance there. A lot of that is definitely tied to rounds as well. So I don't have, other than just the numbers, which tell what's happening.
So now that we see this decline, and I think, Greg,
Well,
you talked about
part of it is, quite honestly, and Bill's kind of outlined it, a lot of these things are interconnected. When we have bad weather and people don't play golf, we lose not only on the golf, but we lose in other amenities as well, because they're indoors.
Right.
And that's happened. I mean, it's probably hard to believe from what we've been through for the last 2 weeks, and some of us don't have a great memory past 2 weeks, but if you go back into April and May, we had a lot of rain.
What about snow? How many days were the facilities closed as well?
We had closed a whole week back in
Yeah.
January.
Yeah.
That was another thing that impacted us, that's for sure. But all of these things are intertied, as you can probably well guess, Keith, and the thing is you can't just look at one thing and say, well, that's the reason. There's a whole bunch of factors that you got to look at, and not the least about, for us, especially this time of year, is weather. But that's the kind of stuff we really need to sit down and really go through with Bobby Jones and come up with their plan with our help about how we're going to look at this going forward.
Right.
And that's a conversation we really have to have.
Yeah. Well, when a member pays at Stonehenge Grill, they typically pay with their member card. So I imagine you would probably have some kind of a record as to whether that's decreasing or not.
We do.
Right.
We
Okay.
know who dines there, but, the fact of the matter is, too, is you take a look at, and I'll make these comments about golf packages. We don't really have a good spot for 30 guys to sit down and have dinner.
True.
I mean, it just doesn't exist right
True.
now. And where are they going? Go down to Red sometime on a weekend. Go to Casa Grande on a weekend. We're losing a lot of business from those people going down there because we don't have a facility that facilitates them getting together with their group and having a good time. That's just a fact. And I've gone up to them and I've asked them, I said, what's your biggest thing about it? Oh, the golf is wonderful. The courses are wonderful. But you don't have any place for us to go and have a good time. Well, we're hoping that Druid's going to certainly take into that. You'll see a financial pro forma next month where we're going to talk about that and how the assumptions made that we are, or that we have in that. But it's not just a real simple question to say, well, I wish it were this simple. Last year we did this year we did that. All we have to focus on is on food and beverage and Stonehenge.
Right.
It's just not that simple.
And I can
I wasn't
speak-
trying to imply that there's a simple answer.
No, and I can, to Scott Hardeman's comments earlier, food and beverage operations, particularly in a club industry, are a very difficult challenge. You are asked to do breakfast, lunch, dinner. They want the menu to change on a very frequent period, offering specials. You want to do special events. That requires a certain skill level of your cooks, so you therefore have to have a higher payroll than perhaps someone that's just flipping burgers at a burger place, which, all due respect to them. But that's their menu, that's all they do, and they do it very efficiently. If that's all you want, that can be done efficiently, but it's not. It's not what the community asks or expects. And so there is a high overhead relative in when you have to when you go after the revenue that you need. If it was a simple proposition, there would be entrepreneurs and restaurateurs lining up out the door to come in here and have a piece of this business, but it's not. It is a very challenge, and you oftentimes have to have an analysis as to what are you willing to live with as a community and as a club, because it has to exist. It, to me, is the social fabric, food and beverage, of a community and of a successful club. Not everyone plays golf, not everyone plays pickleball, everyone eats. And yes, everyone has different tastes, different price points, and so forth, and that's what clubs try to meet, unlike other operations, commercial establishments. So a lot is asked of that operation, and it's a challenge, and it always will be. So you try to look at what is exactly your members in the greater community, the guests are looking for, and how can you operate as efficiently as possible, and you make a decision as to what is you can live with.
And I'd just like to give you a sample of what happened in May. And when we're budgeting, obviously, it's hard to predict weather, as you know. So we had 8 inches more of rain in the month of May than we did in the month of May of 2023. What does that equate to? 4,000 rounds. That's a lot of rounds of golf. That's a lot of people that are not out there playing golf, eating, drinking, et cetera, et cetera.
And when you look at cost and you look at payrolls and so forth, you have to have the people there at a minimum, whether people show up or not due to rain or not. And you can't sit there on a daily basis and say, well, it's raining, go home. Next day, it's raining, go home. They're not going to come back. So there is a cost that you have to live with. That's a cost of operation because of those, again, those variables that exist within the food and beverage operation, so.
And, I mean, just adding on, I mean, then we'll probably stop here pretty quick, but we've looked at, over the years, when we're even open. Go down to like the Italian place down there. They're open Friday, Saturday, Sunday. What would we do if we were only open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? Well, I think we'd probably have some feedback that that's not enough. As a matter of fact, we've heard that. Matter of fact, we always
Yep.
go around a little bit every year when we look in the winter and we close down on Tuesday. Because now you become an unreliable source. Oh, I don't remember that you're gonna be closed on Tuesday. And, you know, I went there for dinner and by golly, you weren't open. I'm sure you're gonna be closed Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday too. So there's a lot that goes into this and it's not an easy, straightforward thing. But I can honestly tell you that the board has had discussions about all of this and we continue to have them. And yet, we have things happen like 8 more inches of rain, that has an impact. So your
Yep.
question really is a whole lot of people that you need to interview, Keith.
Right.
And you're going to get different opinions on them because we all look at things a little differently. But I will say that this board, I think, has taken the right kind of actions. It started really with Ken several years ago when he started pressing some of this stuff of making this look more like a business. And what's continued with the current board, we're trying to run this like a business.
All right, thank you.
Because it is. Thank you. Okay. Any other member comments?
Sorry, just to add that, but the important part is we're a not-for-profit business.
Well, that's true. That's true, we can. Yeah, we would look at whole things a whole lot differently if we were for a profit deal. Okay. Wildwood Stables, Bruce Horn.
Okay. To bring you up to date, the last meeting with the Wildwood Committee was June 7th, and the chair addressed the public portion. There were 14 visitors, which was great. Nice to see guests come and be involved in these committee meetings. But he shared the fact with the community, or the visitors and the rest of the committee, that we're under a deadline to, we all know that the contract that leasee is going away or terminated, finishing up on January 1st. So they've been very active and working hard for working on a recommendation to the board that we can share with the community and get some ideas of where this thing is going to go. So and to do that, we need to get things into the 2025 budget. So their work has been accelerated. So we anticipate now that by the July board meeting, we will have in hand the final product, the recommendation from the committee of which way to go, which option. It goes back to, I believe, Tom, you're wanting to know how we address options. That's the whole point of this exercise, that out of the 20-some people that applied, there was 9 of them now that have experience and expertise on topic. And we will get a recommendation from their analysis going out to the industry and looking at comparables and on and on and on, which will be shared with the public once we have had it and had the time to review it and assimilate that data. And I anticipate a presentation to the board and probably to the community. I won't promise that until we've decided that. But the fact of the matter is, by the end of the July, we will have a recommendation that we can vote on moving forward, because we have to. And it includes options, you know, and whether bring it in-house, another leasee, manage it ourselves, interim managers, all of those things for an amenity that is part of the community. So that's the status of it.
You want to continue on with the lots committee?
Sure, we'll talk about that. Not much to say. The numbers, I don't have, as of the last 15 minutes, but the numbers for up to the first of the month anyway, should be, we've taken back 27 lots, we've sold 37 lots, and we've got 14 pending. Now, and the caveat is, I don't have today's numbers, and these are not, at the moment, but by the time this goes to the website, you'll have those numbers. And if I can get an update by tomorrow, there'll be another change, because at board, you'll get another update on it.
The lot merger policy?
Yeah, the lot merger policy was revised, updated, and is on the website, and will be on the website for review and comment to July 27th, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, to the 27th. So if you've got, again, if you've got questions about the revised policy, send them in. We'll get an answer for you. It's open for comment, so.
And
if
the
you like what
intention
you're
of the
reading,
board is
great.
we'll vote on that in the July meeting.
Yeah.
So please get your comments in.
That's it.
Okay, I'm going to do a real quick rehash on where we are with the policies that we're looking at. We did hear back from our attorney last week, late, so we got late breaking news on this, and I'm going to go through them and where we are as a board with them. The pet nuisance policy.
Could you just speak into the microphones a little bit?
I'm sorry.
I can't do that well.
All right, that's fine.
And I've missed a lot.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
So on the pet nuisance policy, we have been recommended, or it's been recommended to us, and we agree that we're not going to change the pet nuisance policy. The reason why is we're consistent with state law, and that's where we want to be. The other piece of that is that for those, and there was certainly a situation that was brought up last month about someone being bitten, and we certainly don't condone that kind of behavior. But there are legal remedies that are built into the state law for persons to take care of that. And those remedies are spelled out, and our animal control people with the county, we spoke with the county as well, are well aware of what those are. We talked with our police chief, Kate Self, and she's well aware of what they are. And so we are going to have the legal remedies that are already built into the law be what people can do if they have an issue. But we're not changing our policy at this time because we're consistent with what state law says, and that's where we're going to stay. In terms of the sign policy, there's some comments about that. There was a new policy that was written, but if you read in the amendments to that policy, people that have had the policy written prior to July 1st, 2017, which our sign policy was written before that, it was written in 2015, are excluded from the new law. Therefore, we're not going to change our current sign policy, and the same restrictions about signs being up and around are going to be enforced that have been in the past years. If another board changes the policy, then anytime there's amendment to it or change, we would have to fall under the new law, but we're specifically excluded to that because of when our policy was put in force, and we're not going to change it at this point. The final one is the flag policy. We looked at that. It's pointed out in section, this will be really riveting stuff for you, Tennessee Code 66-27-602. But what that statute refers to is the U.S. Code, USC Code 5-10, and that it tells you the policy from the federal perspective of how you fly a flag. And that, again, is what we are, and that's exactly where we are. Now, there's been a lot of discussion and going back and forth about distress signals. If you read the federal policy, it talks about that. It's not that, it's really to let people know that there's a situation going on that needs probably, at least at a minimum, police help or someone to help them. It's not a banner to wave for the nation, okay? So we're going to keep with the flag policy that we have, which is consistent with federal and state law, and we see no reasons to change that at that point. So those are the three policies that we reviewed, and those are the conclusions that we drew. All right? I would also add that in this afternoon's conversation in the executive session, we will be talking about the reserve study again, and we'll have another announcement probably at tomorrow morning's board meeting, okay? All right. Anything else? If not,
Motion to adjourn.
second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all for coming, and I really do appreciate those of you
Thank you,
that stood
everybody.
up and spoke. Thank you.